What if everything you feared the most, the silence of an empty house, the days with no plans, the long nights where all you hear is your own breathing, weren't punishments, but invitations? What if what seems like abandonment is actually a call to freedom? At 60, 70, or 80 years old, some say being alone is a sign of failure. But what if it's the opposite? What if it's in this very moment, when the world quiets around you, that you finally hear what's been muffled for decades? Your own voice. Being alone doesn't have to be painful. It can be freeing. It can be the beginning of a new chapter. Calmer, truer, and more yours. In this video, we'll walk through this idea together. That being alone is not the end. Maybe it's the beginning. After 60, many things change. Sometimes gradually, sometimes all at once. The children follow their own paths. The calendar clears. Conversations grow fewer. What was once filled with voices, obligations, and responsibilities now becomes open and silent. That silence may feel strange at first. For some, it's deafening. For others, simply lonely. But maybe silence isn't abandoning you. Maybe it's offering you a chance. A chance to return to yourself. To reconnect with everything that was postponed. To realize that you're still here, alive, whole, present. And that time, now more generous, can be shaped by your own rhythm. This video is an invitation. An invitation to look at solitude through a new lens. To see it as a portal, not into isolation, but into self-discovery. We'll talk about fear, but also about freedom. We'll talk about longing, but also about renewal. Because solitude, when truly understood, doesn't have to be a burden. It can become a home. Even when life offers silence as a gift, it's natural for fear to show up first. Because truthfully, we were never taught to be alone, let alone to enjoy it. From an early age, we learned that being with others gives us value. We're good children, good partners, good mothers, good professionals, when we belong to something or someone. So when routines shift and connections fade, what we're left with often feels like loss. The absence of voices around the house seems to echo a silent question. Now what? Who am I? That's the kind of void that scares us. It's not just the lack of company. It's the feeling of not knowing who we are beyond the roles that no longer exist. Many people, after retiring, losing a spouse, or watching their children leave, feel as though life has somehow gotten smaller. The pace slows down. The noise of the world fades. And time, once scarce, now feels abundant and heavy. There's also social pressure. The constant message that we shouldn't be alone. As if solitude were a sign of failure. Phrases like, you need to find someone, or you can't stay like this, all alone, don't help. They just reinforce the belief that being alone is wrong. But what if the problem isn't being alone, but what we believe it means? Maybe it's not solitude that hurts so much, but the story we tell ourselves about it. Maybe the fear doesn't come from silence itself, but from what it allows us to hear. What rises when there's no one else to distract us. What appears when no outside voices are telling us what to do. Facing this phase of life is like sitting in front of an emotional mirror. And yes, the reflection may scare you at first, but it can also heal you. Because underneath the fear of solitude, there's a fertile ground for discovery. And when we dare to walk through that fear, we often find something unexpected on the other side. Freedom. Not all silence is emptiness. And not every absence is loneliness. There's a fundamental, yet often invisible, difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Being alone is a physical state. Feeling lonely is an emotional one. And the two don't always go hand in hand. Some people are surrounded by others and still feel deeply lonely. Others live alone and experience a peace they never imagined. What makes the difference? The way they inhabit their own presence. Forced solitude can hurt, but chosen solitude can heal. When you realize that being alone can be a choice, something shifts inside. The absence of company stops feeling like a lack and starts feeling like freedom. You begin to notice the joy of walking without rushing, eating when you please, reading in silence, listening to the wind, and still feeling whole. This isn't about denying the importance of human connection. Relationships are still precious. But the key is understanding that someone else's love should never replace our own presence. Being well with another is only possible when we learn to be well with ourselves. This shift in perspective starts when we stop asking, "Who will I spend my time with?" and start asking, "How do I want to live this time that is all mine?" Because this time is sacred. And it can be lived with dignity, beauty, and autonomy. Imagine the freedom of planning your days without having to please anyone, of rediscovering simple pleasures like cooking just for yourself, of dressing for you, listening to music you love, walking with no particular destination, and feeling whole. It's not isolation. It's intimacy with your own soul. When that inner shift happens, when you understand that being alone doesn't have to mean being lonely, something settles inside. You realize that your own company is indeed enough. And more than that, it's precious. When the noise outside quiets down, we slowly begin to hear what's always been within. Time alone, once feared, begins to reveal layers of our story that have long been hidden. A life once lived for others, for the kids, the job, the marriage, the home, finally turns inward. And what do we find there? At first, it might feel unfamiliar. There are old emotions, unresolved wounds, forgotten desires. But there are also beautiful memories, dormant talents, small dreams still alive. It's in that silence that a space for reconnection is born. Some people, after turning 60, discover they love painting, writing, or tending to flowers. Others find joy in listening to their favorite songs again, dancing alone in the living room, or cooking for the pleasure of it. Some start writing journals. Others begin talking to God in a more direct way. Some remember how much they loved walking barefoot on the grass, or watching the sky change colors at sunset. These moments, simple yet profound, are seeds of the soul. They don't need an audience. They only need your presence. Rediscovering your inner self doesn't happen all at once. It's like a trail through an unfamiliar forest. At first, you walk slowly, cautiously. But over time you begin to recognize paths, scents, and sounds. And you realize this place, yourself, is more beautiful than you thought. It's through this process that a new kind of self-care begins to grow. Not out of duty, but out of affection. The way you make your coffee, choose your clothes, make your bed. Everything becomes a gesture of attention. And attention is the first step toward self-love. Rediscovering yourself is often an act of courage, but it's also a privilege. Few stages of life offer this kind of emotional freedom. The time to look inward without rushing, to revisit old dreams, to ask yourself honestly, who am I now? And more importantly, who do I want to become from here on? Because being alone is not the end of a cycle. It's the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. And this might just be the most sincere and transformative one of all. When you begin to reconnect with who you truly are, something inside you shifts. Decisions that were once shaped by others' expectations now come from your own desires. And that is freedom. Freedom isn't about doing whatever you want all the time. It's about being able to choose, with awareness and calm, what truly makes sense for you. And maybe for the first time in decades, you're at a point in life where you can do just that. Maturity brings this quiet gift, the ability to choose for yourself. You can choose the pace of your routine. You can choose what to eat without rushing. You can choose who to be with or not be with. You can choose to say yes to new experiences and no to what no longer nourishes you. It's liberating to realize you don't have to please anyone anymore. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to fit into labels that no longer make sense. Many women, for example, say that only after turning 60 did they discover the joy of walking alone without worrying about others' eyes, or the relief of no longer needing to wear makeup or dress to meet someone else's expectations. It's as if the body and the soul were asking for rest and at the same time for authenticity. And men are rediscovering, too. They no longer need to be the providers, the strong ones, the invincible. They can be vulnerable, peaceful, simple. They can relearn how to care for their health, cultivate real friendships, and speak from the heart. Imagine traveling alone for the first time, or finally renovating your home the way you always dreamed, without asking anyone's opinion, or simply enjoying a cup of coffee on the porch, knowing that nothing else is needed for that moment to be complete. This freedom is not selfishness. It's emotional maturity, because when you choose yourself, you're not excluding others. You're simply placing yourself at the center of your own life. And that shouldn't be the exception. It should be the norm. The freedom to choose for yourself is also a return to wholeness. You become whole again, no longer fragmented by the demands of the world, no longer deluded in someone else's desires. You with your pace, your rituals, your truths. And the more you allow yourself to live that freedom, the more natural it becomes. Because living from within, living in alignment with yourself, is deep down what we've always sought, even when we didn't know it. Once the external voices quiet down, silence begins to fill the spaces of life, and over time the heart. For many, that silence feels frightening at first. We're used to the noise of appointments, tasks, constant company, so silence can show up as a shapeless emptiness. But with a bit of time and tenderness, we start to see, it's not empty. It's full of possibilities. Silence holds transformative power. It's where we hear what we never allowed ourselves to listen to. It's where old questions return. But now, without urgency. What do I really enjoy? What makes me feel good? What do I want to keep? What am I ready to let go of? These questions don't come with noise. They come with stillness. And stillness only arrives when we make room for silence. There's a natural wisdom in creating small silent rituals. Savoring your morning coffee with full attention. Noticing the morning light coming through the window. Listening to your own footsteps in the yard. Lighting a candle at dusk and simply being there. These are simple yet powerful moments. Moments only silence can offer. Moments that reconnect us with the deepest parts of who we are. Silence also heals. It reveals old wounds and helps dissolve them. It shows us what needs care and what needs to be released. It teaches us to sit with pain without running from it. and to find, even in pain, a trace of beauty. Some say emptiness is the space where creation begins. It is from nothing that the new is born. And maybe that's why, when we truly allow ourselves to be silent, a part of us is reborn. Lighter, more present, more whole. You don't have to fill every moment of your day. You don't need to stay busy just to avoid yourself. You don't need constant distractions to escape your inner world. Sometimes it's enough to simply be. And in that being, a new kind of peace emerges. Not the peace of ready-made answers, but the peace of someone who has made peace with the mystery of their own existence. In the end, silence isn't the end of the conversation. It's the beginning of a more honest dialogue with yourself. It's curious how, throughout life, we're taught to believe that being alone means losing something. I lost my partner. I lost sight of my children. I lost my place in the world. But what if it's not about loss? What if it's about return? Being alone is not the same as being empty. Quite the opposite. More often than not, it's the only way to reconnect with everything you left behind. Your desires, your longings, your deepest truths. Conscious solitude is not absence. It's presence, yours. It's you fully inhabiting yourself. No masks. No pretending. No guilt. You begin to see that you haven't lost anything. You're actually gaining something rare. The freedom to be who you truly are, without others' expectations, without invisible pressures, without the constant rush that used to pull you away from yourself every day. In this new light, being alone becomes a place of reunion. A reunion with your story, with your time, with your own company, which is no longer something to avoid, but something to honor. And that's when transformation happens. When you stop resisting solitude and begin to embrace it with love, you discover it's not a prison. It's a home. And inside that home, who lives there, is you, whole, free, alive. After walking through fear, turning inward, and embracing silence, a new reality begins to unfold. Freedom. The freedom to be yourself, without external pressure. The freedom to live at your own pace, without hurry or demands. The freedom to choose yourself, every single day. Solitude, once seen as emptiness, becomes a sacred space. A place where peace can bloom. And that peace doesn't depend on anyone else. It is born from your presence, your care, your self-love. Of course, the journey isn't always easy. There will be days of longing, doubt, and the urge to go back. But that, too, is part of the process. Every step toward yourself is a victory. Every moment of welcomed silence is a building block in the foundation of your autonomy. At 60, 70, 80 years old or more, the art of being alone without feeling lonely becomes an invitation to freedom. A chance to be reborn, to reinvent yourself, to live with authenticity. When you learn to feel good in your own company, the world around you changes. Because true freedom begins in silence. If this video touched your heart and brought a new perspective on being alone, how about sharing it with someone who might also need to reconnect with themselves? You never know who could be waiting for this gentle invitation to inner freedom. Like the video, share your experiences in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more reflections that welcome, inspire, and help us see aging with new eyes. Together, we can build a community where solitude is no longer feared, but honored as a space of love and authenticity. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.